I think I know I've been working very hard for the family business. Sometimes if those days are long days, and I think if I know I'm working hard and I'm, pulling my weight, both work and then playing hard at the same time,
Everyone thought Princess Diana's story ended decades ago, every secret exposed, every mystery is solved. But now, explosive online claims say a DNA test has uncovered something no one was meant to find. And when the results were allegedly revealed, Kate Middleton reportedly broke down in tears. If true, this discovery could change how Diana's legacy is seen forever.
It's been a hard road for him. My grandfather started off helping out WWF a long time ago with its nature work and biodiversity. And I think that my father's sort of progressed that on and talked about climate change a lot more very early on before anyone else thought it was a topic.
What was hidden for years, and why is it resurfacing now through DNA at the heart of the modern monarchy? In recent days, a wave of online discussion has focused on claims that Catherine, Princess of Wales, was left deeply emotional after being informed of the results of a DNA test connected to the late Diana, Princess of Wales. The story has spread quickly across video platforms and social media, often framed in dramatic language. What can be stated with certainty at the outset is that no official statement from Kensington Palace, Buckingham Palace, or any major British news organisation has confirmed such an event. As with many modern royal stories, the speed of the narrative has outpaced verified information, making it necessary to separate what is known, what has been reported, and what remains speculation. The origin of the claims appears to be a cluster of online videos and posts that began circulating almost simultaneously. These posts describe an alleged private moment in which Catherine was presented with DNA findings linked to Diana's past, followed by an emotional reaction. None of these accounts identify named sources with direct knowledge, and none cite official documents, court filings, or statements from recognised laboratories. Established UK broadcasters and newspapers have not reported on any confirmed DNA test involving Princess Diana's remains or personal biological material in recent years, nor have they reported on Catherine receiving such results. That context is important because the British royal family operates within a very structured system when it comes to medical, legal, and historical matters. Any DNA testing connected to a deceased member of the royal family, particularly someone as prominent as Diana, would require extensive legal oversight, consent from relevant authorities, and careful coordination with family members. Historically, when sensitive information has been formally acknowledged by the palace, it has been communicated through carefully worded statements, not informal leaks. What is factual and well documented is the enduring public fascination with Diana and the lasting emotional impact she continues to have on both the royal family and the public. Diana's death in 1997 remains one of the most analysed and discussed events in modern British history. Over the years, journalists, historians, and researchers have examined her life in extraordinary detail, from her upbringing and marriage to Prince Charles, to her humanitarian work, to the circumstances surrounding her death. That attention has included legitimate academic research into her ancestry, which was published years ago and drew on historical records rather than new DNA testing. Those studies were openly reported and never suggested hidden revelations with immediate personal consequences for living royals. Catherine's role within the royal family also provides essential context. As Princess of Wales, she is not only Prince William's wife, but also a senior working royal whose public image is closely associated with stability, continuity, and restraint. Her appearances, speeches, and engagements are carefully planned, and moments of visible emotion are relatively rare in formal settings. When they do occur, they are usually tied to clearly understood circumstances, such as discussions about children's mental health, family illness, or remembrance events. Supporters of the viral claims often point to Catherine's known respect for Diana's legacy. It is well established that William has spoken privately and publicly about the importance of keeping his mother's memory alive for his children. Catherine has participated in that effort, including wearing jewellery once owned by Diana and referencing her influence in carefully chosen ways. None of that, however, constitutes evidence of a newly discovered secret or a DNA-based revelation. According to several media analysts who have commented on the trend, the current wave of stories fits a familiar pattern. Sensational headlines are paired with emotional language and vague references to unnamed insiders. The content is then repeated and slightly altered across multiple platforms, giving the impression of widespread confirmation, when in reality, each version traces back to the same unverified origin. This process has been observed before with royal-related rumors, particularly those involving Diana, whose name still attracts intense attention decades after her death. There is also the scientific aspect to consider. DNA testing requires a physical sample. In Diana's case, any legitimate testing would depend on previously stored medical samples or exhumation, both of which would involve legal proceedings and public accountability. To date, no such proceedings have been reported. Experts in forensic genetics have repeatedly stated in interviews over the years that without transparent documentation, claims of secret DNA tests should be treated with caution. As for Catherine's alleged emotional response, no photographs, videos, or contemporaneous eyewitness accounts from credible sources have surfaced. Royal engagements continue to be documented by the press, and Catherine's recent appearances have not shown any unexplained absence or visible distress that would typically prompt media inquiry. In the past, even relatively minor changes to a senior royal's schedule have generated official explanations, particularly when public concern could arise. Palace silence in this case does not automatically imply confirmation. Royal households often choose not to respond to online rumors, especially when doing so could amplify unfounded claims. This approach has been consistent across decades, with officials intervening only when false information poses a clear risk or intersects with legal matters. It is also worth noting that Diana herself was the subject of countless rumors during her lifetime and after her death. Some were later proven false, others exaggerated, and a few grounded in partial truth. That history has made reputable journalists particularly cautious when assessing new claims attached to her name. Several royal correspondents have publicly stated that if credible evidence of a significant discovery existed, it would almost certainly be handled through formal reporting channels rather than anonymous online videos. From a broader perspective, the emotional framing of the story speaks to a deeper public narrative. Diana is often portrayed as a figure whose story was never fully told, leaving room for the idea of a final secret. Catherine, in turn, is frequently positioned by commentators as Diana's symbolic successor, not by title but by public affection. Combining those two figures into a single dramatic moment is powerful storytelling, even if it lacks factual grounding. For viewers trying to make sense of the claims, the key facts remain unchanged. There has been no confirmed announcement of a DNA test related to Diana in recent years. There has been no verified report of Catherine receiving such information, and there has been no acknowledgement from official sources that any new revelation about Diana's past has emerged. Everything beyond that exists in the realm of speculation and online narrative building. At the same time, the story highlights how modern media consumption blurs the line between verified reporting and emotionally compelling fiction. A claim does not need to be proven to feel real when it is repeated often enough and presented with conviction. This makes a cautious, fact-based approach especially important when discussing living individuals and the memory of someone who cannot respond for herself. As this video continues, it will examine where these claims came from, why they resonate with so many people, and what is actually known about Diana's legacy through documented history rather than viral storytelling. For now, the only responsible conclusion is that while the idea of a hidden truth may be compelling, the available evidence does not support the dramatic assertions currently circulating online. As discussion continues, much of the attention shifts from Catherine's reported reaction to the question at the centre of the story: what is meant by Diana's final secret, and why the idea of a DNA confirmation has captured public imaginations so strongly. To understand this, it is necessary to look carefully at what is actually known about Diana, what has been legitimately studied, and how those facts have been reshaped in online narratives. Princess. Diana's life was documented to an extent that few public figures have experienced. From her engagement to Prince Charles in 1981 until her death in 1997, nearly every aspect of her public and private life was examined by the press. Biographies, interviews, authorized accounts, and investigative journalism have left very little untouched. That long record makes the idea of a major undiscovered truth difficult to reconcile with the historical evidence, but it does not stop speculation from resurfacing. One area that is often misunderstood is the subject of Diana's background and ancestry. Several years ago, reputable historians and genetic researchers published findings related to her family line. These studies relied on documented genealogy, parish records, and, in some cases, historical DNA research connected to distant ancestors rather than Diana herself. The results were openly discussed in mainstream media at the time and were framed as an interesting historical footnote, not a revelation with personal consequences for living royals. Importantly, those studies did not involve new testing of Diana's remains or personal biological samples. Despite this, online narratives frequently compress or distort those earlier reports. In many viral videos, references to past academic research are presented as if they were recent discoveries, or as if they revealed something deliberately hidden. Media analysts have pointed out that this technique gives recycled information the appearance of urgency and secrecy, even when nothing new has occurred. Another recurring theme is the suggestion that Diana left behind unresolved matters or information that was never made public. This idea has roots in reality, but not in the way it is often portrayed. Diana herself spoke openly in interviews about her struggles within the royal marriage, her mental health, and her sense of isolation. Some of her statements, particularly those given in private conversations later released, were controversial and challenged the royal household at the time. However, these disclosures were already known before her death or became public shortly afterward. They were not hidden biological or genetic secrets. The concept of a DNA-based revelation also raises practical and legal questions that are often overlooked in online discussions. Any legitimate DNA testing connected to Diana would require a verified biological sample. Experts in forensic science have explained repeatedly that without transparent documentation of where a sample came from, how it was stored, and who authorized its use, test results cannot be treated as reliable evidence. In the UK, such procedures would almost certainly involve court oversight and formal disclosure, especially given Diana's status and the public interest involved. There has been no reporting from British courts, coroners' offices, or scientific institutions indicating that any such process has taken place. Nor have there been reports of legal challenges, consent disputes, or family objections, all of which would be expected if a significant DNA investigation were underway. The absence of these signals is one of the strongest indications that the story remains speculative. The emotional link to Catherine is also central to why the narrative resonates. Catherine married into the royal family more than a decade after Diana's death, but she has inevitably been compared to her by the public and the press. These comparisons have ranged from fashion choices to charitable focus, often ignoring the very different contexts in which the two women lived. Catherine has consistently avoided encouraging such parallels, choosing instead to emphasize continuity and teamwork within the family. That restraint has not stopped others from projecting symbolic meaning onto her role. In many online narratives, Catherine is portrayed as the person who inherits not just Diana's public affection, but also her unresolved story. In that framework, the idea that Catherine would be the one to receive or react to a final secret feels emotionally satisfying, even if it lacks factual support. Royal historians have noted that this pattern reflects a broader tendency to personalize institutional history. Complex historical processes are simplified into moments of individual revelation, often centered on a sympathetic figure. In this case, the imagined scene of Catherine learning something profound about Diana functions more as storytelling than as reporting. It is also important to distinguish between private family knowledge and public disclosure. Like any family, the royal household has personal memories, letters, and conversations that are never shared publicly. William and Harry have both spoken about private moments with their mother that belong only to them. That privacy, however, should not be confused with the existence of a dramatic secret waiting to be exposed through scientific testing. Several royal correspondents have pointed out that when genuine new information about Diana has emerged in the past, it has come through identifiable sources and careful reporting. For example, when previously unseen letters or recorded conversations were made public, journalists could trace their origin, verify their authenticity, and provide context. The current claims lack those characteristics. The role of social media algorithms also cannot be ignored. Content that combines grief, mystery, and familiar public figures tends to spread quickly. Once a few creators adopt a particular framing, others repeat it, often adding emotional language or imagined details. Over time, repetition creates a sense of credibility that does not reflect the underlying evidence. Some commentators have drawn parallels to earlier waves of online speculation about Diana, including unfounded claims about her death or secret relationships. In each case, official investigations and historical records contradicted the rumors, but the stories persisted because they appealed to emotional narratives rather than factual ones. From a scientific standpoint, DNA is often presented as the ultimate proof, a tool that settles all questions. While DNA testing is indeed powerful, it does not operate in a vacuum. Results must be interpreted within a clear legal and historical framework. Without that framework, the phrase DNA confirms can be misleading, suggesting certainty where none exists. The idea of a final secret also assumes that Diana's life can be neatly concluded with a single revelation. Historians generally reject this notion. They argue that understanding Diana requires acknowledging complexity rather than searching for a hidden key that explains everything. Her impact came from a combination of personality, circumstance, and timing, not from undisclosed biological facts. As of now, the only elements of this story that can be confirmed are the existence of past, well-documented research into Diana's ancestry and the ongoing public interest in her legacy. There is no verified evidence of a new DNA test, no official acknowledgement of a recent discovery, and no substantiated report of Catherine being presented with such information. This does not prevent speculation from continuing, but it does define the boundary between what is known and what is imagined. For viewers seeking clarity, that boundary is essential. Without it, emotionally compelling narratives risk being mistaken for established fact. As the claims continued to circulate, attention shifted away from the supposed discovery itself and toward the human consequences implied by the story. Even without confirmation, the idea of a deeply personal revelation affecting living members of the royal family invited speculation about emotional strain, family dynamics, and the pressure of public expectation. This part of the narrative focuses less on what is provable and more on how such stories, whether accurate or not, intersect with real people and real lives. Catherine, Princess of Wales, occupies a uniquely visible and demanding position. Her public role requires a balance of approachability and restraint, warmth, and discipline. Over the years, she has been praised for maintaining consistency under intense scrutiny. That consistency, however, should not be mistaken for emotional detachment. Like any individual, she experiences personal feelings and private reactions that are not visible during public appearances. The difference is that for her, even imagined private moments can quickly become public narratives. Observers who promote the idea that Catherine was emotionally overwhelmed often frame it as evidence of her connection to Diana's legacy. From a psychological standpoint, this framing relies on empathy rather than evidence. Catherine never knew Diana personally, but she married into a family where Diana's presence is still deeply felt. William has spoken about how he keeps his mother's memory alive for his children, and Catherine has supported that effort in quiet, measured ways. That support, however, does not imply emotional fragility or hidden distress. Royal psychologists and behavioural experts have noted in interviews over the years that members of the royal family are trained, both formally and informally, to manage emotional pressure in public. This does not mean they are immune to stress, but it does mean that visible emotional breakdowns are rare and usually connected to clearly defined circumstances. When such moments do occur, they are typically acknowledged or contextualized by official sources. In this case, no such acknowledgement has been made. Prince William's position adds another layer of complexity. As Diana's eldest son, he carries both personal memories and public expectations tied to his mother. He has spoken candidly about the long-term impact of losing her at a young age and the importance of mental health support. Any suggestion that new information about Diana could emerge would naturally raise questions about how it might affect him. Yet those closest to William have consistently described him as someone who prefers clarity and stability over speculation. In past situations involving sensitive family matters, William and Catherine have taken a cautious approach. They rarely comment on rumours, choosing instead to focus on their work and maintain routine. This pattern has been observed by royal correspondents across different administrations and media landscapes. The absence of comment in the face of viral claims is therefore consistent with established behaviour rather than an indication of concealed turmoil. The broader emotional impact of such narratives should also be considered. Public speculation can place strain not only on the individuals named, but also on their children. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis are still young, yet they are growing up in an environment where online content can be accessed easily and repeated endlessly. Even unfounded stories can take on a life of their own, creating material that may later require explanation within the family. Experts in media psychology have pointed out that stories involving grief and family secrets tend to resonate because they mirror universal human experiences. Loss, unanswered questions, and emotional inheritance are themes that many people recognize in their own lives. When these themes are projected onto well-known figures, they can feel both intimate and distant at the same time. The royal family becomes a canvas for emotions that are, in reality, widely shared. This emotional resonance does not make the claims true, but it helps explain their persistence. The image of Catherine reacting emotionally to information about Diana offers a sense of continuity, as if Diana's story is still unfolding through the next generation. For some audiences, this is comforting. For others, it is unsettling. In either case, it reflects a desire to keep Diana present in contemporary narratives. There is also the question of privacy. Over the past decade, discussions about mental health and emotional well-being have become more open, including within royal initiatives supported by William and Catherine. These efforts encourage people to acknowledge vulnerability while also respecting personal boundaries. Turning unverified emotional reactions into public spectacle runs counter to that message, even if it is framed as sympathetic. From the perspective of those working within the palace system, managing such narratives is part of an ongoing challenge. Palace communications teams must decide when silence is the best option and when clarification is necessary. Responding to every online claim would be impractical and potentially counterproductive. At the same time, leaving emotionally charged stories unaddressed can allow them to grow unchecked. Striking the right balance requires judgment shaped by experience rather than immediate public pressure. It is also important to consider how the memory of Diana is handled within the family. William and Harry have both expressed a desire to protect their mother's legacy from distortion. They have supported projects that focus on her humanitarian work and compassion rather than sensational aspects of her life. Introducing speculative genetic narratives risks shifting attention away from those values. For Catherine, being drawn into such a story may be particularly challenging because she did not choose the comparison to Diana. It was placed upon her. From the beginning of her relationship with William, media outlets and commentators drew parallels, sometimes unfairly. Over time, Catherine has established her own identity and approach. Stories that frame her primarily as a vessel for Diana's unresolved past can undermine that autonomy. Professionals who work with public figures often emphasize the importance of routine and groundedness as protective factors. By continuing with scheduled engagements, focusing on long-term projects, and maintaining family life away from the spotlight when possible, individuals can reduce the impact of external noise. Catherine's public schedule and demeanour in recent months have remained consistent, which suggests that no extraordinary private crisis has disrupted her daily responsibilities. At the same time, the public should recognise that emotional responses do not always manifest outwardly. Even if Catherine were presented with information about Diana that prompted reflection or sadness, it would not necessarily result in visible tears or dramatic moments. Human reactions are complex and often subtle, particularly in individuals accustomed to public scrutiny. The narrative also invites reflection on how society consumes stories about grief. Diana's death was a shared public trauma, and for many people, it remains emotionally charged. Stories that suggest new pain connected to her can reopen those feelings. While empathy is natural, it should be grounded in respect for truth and for the individuals involved. Ultimately, this phase of the story reveals more about audience psychology than about confirmed events. The focus on emotional impact highlights how easily speculation can transform into assumed reality when it aligns with existing emotional frameworks. Catherine, William, and Diana are all figures onto whom meaning is projected, often without their input. As the discussion moves forward, it becomes increasingly important to step back and examine how such narratives take shape and what responsibility audiences and creators have in sharing them. Understanding the human cost of speculation, even when it feels sympathetic, is a necessary part of that examination. As the story reaches its final stage, the focus naturally widens beyond individual reactions and personal emotion to consider the broader implications of how such claims emerge, spread, and persist. At this point, the question is no longer just whether a specific event occurred, but what the existence and popularity of the narrative reveal about public trust, media behavior, and the ongoing relationship between the monarchy and the public. One of the most significant aspects of this episode is the way authority is perceived in the digital age. Traditionally, information about the royal family followed a predictable path. Reports were filtered through established news organizations, vetted by editors, and often confirmed or denied through official palace statements. While this system was far from perfect, it created a shared understanding of what counted as verified information. Today, that hierarchy has weakened. A single video or post can reach millions before any journalist or institution has had time to assess its accuracy. In this environment, the language of certainty carries enormous weight. Phrases such as "DNA confirms" or "final secret revealed" imply an objective conclusion, even when no supporting evidence is provided. For many viewers, the presence of scientific terminology is enough to suspend doubt. Media researchers have found that audiences often associate DNA with absolute truth, despite the fact that DNA evidence, like all data, depends on context, methodology, and interpretation. This has direct consequences for public understanding. When scientific language is used without transparency, it can distort perceptions of how knowledge is produced. In the absence of documentation, peer review, or official acknowledgement, claims framed as scientific findings should be treated with caution. That distinction, however, is not always clear to audiences encountering emotionally compelling content in a fast-moving feed. The royal family occupies a particular position within this landscape. As a constitutional institution, rather than an elected body, its legitimacy rests partly on tradition and partly on public confidence. Stories that suggest hidden truths or concealed histories can undermine that confidence, even if they are untrue. At the same time, the monarchy's reluctance to engage directly with rumours can be interpreted in different ways, depending on the audience's expectations. From a constitutional perspective, it is important to note that claims about Diana's personal history, even if they were true, would not alter the legal structure of the monarchy. Succession rules, titles, and constitutional roles are governed by law, not by posthumous revelations. This distinction is often lost in online narratives, which tend to blur personal drama with institutional function. Historians of the monarchy have emphasized that Diana's significance lies less in hidden facts and more in visible impact. Her influence on public attitudes toward the royal family, charity, and emotional openness is well documented. That influence did not depend on secrets revealed after her death, but on actions taken during her life and the way those actions were remembered. For Catherine, the long-term implications of being repeatedly linked to speculative narratives are more subtle. Over time, repeated association with emotionally charged rumours can shape public perception, even if each individual claim is unfounded. This phenomenon, sometimes referred to as narrative accumulation, means that the sheer volume of stories can create an impression of instability or hidden tension where none exists. Royal aides and commentators have noted that one of Catherine's strengths has been consistency. Her approach to public life has changed gradually, reflecting experience rather than crisis. Maintaining that consistency in the face of ongoing speculation requires discipline and support, both personal and institutional. It also relies on the public's willingness to distinguish between evidence and imagination. The role of journalism is central here. Responsible reporting involves not only repeating claims, but assessing their credibility, identifying sources, and providing context. In this case, the absence of reporting from major outlets is itself a form of information. It suggests that those with access to verification channels have not found grounds to publish the story as fact. This does not mean journalists are ignoring the topic, but rather that it does not meet the threshold for confirmation. At the same time, the economic pressures facing media organizations have shifted attention toward engagement-driven content. Online platforms reward clicks, shares, and watch time, often favoring emotionally charged material. This creates an incentive structure in which sensational stories can flourish independently of their accuracy. The monarchy, with its global recognition, becomes an easy subject for this kind of content. Audiences are not passive in this process. Viewers choose what to watch, share, and believe. media literacy experts argue that developing critical habits is increasingly important. Asking simple questions such as who is making the claim, what evidence is provided, and why the story is framed in a particular way can help reduce the spread of misinformation. The memory of Diana plays a unique role in this dynamic. For many people, she represents compassion, vulnerability, and a challenge to rigid tradition. These associations make it tempting to frame new stories about her as revelations rather than reinterpretations. Yet, revisiting her life through speculation risks overshadowing the values she publicly championed. There is also a generational aspect to consider. Younger audiences who did not experience Diana's life or death firsthand may encounter her primarily through online narratives. Without a grounding in historical context, it can be difficult to distinguish between documented events and later embellishments. This places greater responsibility on content creators to avoid presenting fiction as fact. International audiences add another layer of complexity. Perceptions of the British monarchy vary widely across cultures. In some contexts, the monarchy is seen as a symbol of continuity. In others, as an outdated institution. Stories that suggest secrecy or deception can reinforce existing skepticism, particularly in places where trust in inherited power is already low. Despite these challenges, it is worth noting that public reaction to such claims is not uniform. Surveys and comment analyses often show a mix of curiosity, skepticism, and fatigue. Many people express interest in royal history while simultaneously questioning the credibility of viral stories. This suggests that audiences are capable of nuanced responses, even in a fragmented media environment. From a legal standpoint, there are also boundaries to what can be claimed without consequence. While public figures are subject to greater scrutiny, there are still standards around defamation and misinformation. Content that presents unverified allegations as fact can expose creators to legal risk, particularly when it involves living individuals. This risk is one reason established outlets are cautious about amplifying such stories. Looking ahead, the persistence of these narratives raises questions about how institutions adapt to changing information ecosystems. Some commentators have suggested that greater transparency could help counter speculation, while others argue that responding too often only fuels rumors. There is no single solution, but ongoing dialogue about trust and communication is likely to continue. For Catherine and William, the practical response appears unchanged. By continuing their public work and maintaining routine, they reinforce an image of stability. This approach does not address every rumor directly, but it provides a counter-narrative grounded in observable behavior rather than explanation. In reflecting on Diana's legacy, many historians return to a simple point. Her life and influence were already extraordinary without the need for hidden revelations. She changed how the royal family related to the public, how charity work was conducted, and how emotion was expressed within a traditionally reserved institution. These contributions are documented and enduring. The idea of a final secret may be appealing because it suggests closure or revelation, but real history rarely works that way. Understanding the past is an ongoing process, shaped by evidence, interpretation, and perspective. It does not usually hinge on a single dramatic discovery. In the end, this story serves as a case study in how modern narratives are constructed. It illustrates how emotion, familiarity, and scientific language can combine to create persuasive but unverified claims. It also highlights the importance of patience and critical thinking in an age where information travels faster than verification. For viewers and readers, the most reliable guide remains evidence supported by transparent sources. Until such evidence emerges, stories about DNA tests, hidden secrets, and private emotional moments should be approached with caution. Respect for the individuals involved, both living and deceased, requires no less. What remains certain is that Diana's memory continues to resonate. Catherine continues her role with measured consistency, and the public conversation about truth and storytelling is far from over. How that conversation evolves will depend not only on institutions and media, but on the choices made by audiences themselves.